Hello and welcome. I am Matt Roddy, and this is the Greater Prescott podcast, where we talk about, you guessed it, all things Greater Prescott. Today, my guest is Candace Devine. Candace,
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so excited to be here.
You guys do not know what's in store for you today. When I ask Candace what she does for a
whole
living,
lot of crazy.
It's a whole lot of good. So I'm excited that you guys are going to get to learn about what Candace does. Also, just a little plug, we are at Launchpad Teens.
Yes, the Launchpad Teen
where,
Center.
Where we're going to get more into. Thank you for Courtney for allowing us to set up here. And just what an amazing organization that you guys will learn more about as we rock and roll. So to set the context, Candace, just tell people, where were you born and raised? What'd you do when you were a kid? Just give people a flavor for who you are.
Sure. I am originally from Burbank, California.
Okay.
My great-grandparents built one of the first horse stables there, and they provided all of the horses for Westerns, and they were all the original stuntmen and women for Westerns. And then my great-uncle is Andy Devine, who was an old Western actor who, if you're driving down the 40, you'll see Andy Devine drive.
No kidding.
The whatever Kingman Airport at Andy Devine. So my whole family is basically rooted in horses and entertainment.
Okay.
So I grew up.
This is very important, you guys.
Yes,
just remember
I grew up
this.
just the same. I grew up with horses and riding. I had my first pony at like 3 years old and probably got bucked off and then got the next one. I don't know, 7 or 8, something like that.
Yeah.
And
did you ever meet any movie stars?
Many.
Okay. Okay. There you
Many.
go.
Just my dad was a casting director. My mom was an associate director for television.
Okay.
I went to school in Los Angeles with a bunch of celebrities, kids.
There you go.
Yeah, it was just around me, and it was very normal for as unnormal as that is. It was just the way.
It's all relative.
Yeah, it was just
if
the way it
you
was.
grow up poor, you don't really
But
know
I was
the
like
difference.
the poor kid of the group, because my mom drove a Volvo. You know what I mean? Like she didn't have like a souped-up, Jaguar,
whatever,
Mercedes, Benz, Tesla, you name it, whatever it was.
But you didn't really know much.
You don't know any difference. Yeah, and then so I grew up there, and had just a lot of crazy false reality experiences that I loved. They were wonderful. Most of my time was spent at the barn, so I was really more of a barn rat than a kid. My parents were my dad is from a small town in Pennsylvania, and my mom was quite literally born in a barn in Burbank. And so we, as a family, I was an only child, so more often than not, it was like you go to school, then you go clean stalls and clean tack and ride your pony, and So I was always a dirty tomboy.
Yep.
That's kind of how I was raised, and it was absolutely wonderful.
I was going to say, kids need that.
I think it's so great.
It's so helpful.
Well, and flash forward, that's very much a part of why we moved here. For that, and we can get to that later.
We will.
Yeah, when I was growing up in Burbank, the Griffith Park area was basically my backyard, so I had 800 acres of mountainside, and if you were bummed out, you got on your pony and you went for a ride. No parents, no supervision. It was just you went out and rode your horse and came back.
Awesome.
It was very not LA for being LA. It was a very duality experience.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it was like, go to school with the Olsen twins and then come home and clean up horse poop,
Yeah.
But not in like a glamorous way. There were no grooms like getting things ready for me and handing me my horse.
You got to live real life.
Real life.
I think it's really important that people live real life.
Totally.
It's fine if you've got money.
Yeah.
At the same time,
it's fine if you don't.
You got to live real life.
Totally. And my parents were always really big on earning things. So like when, Mario Brothers or Nintendo and those things came out, they were like, if it was $400, they were like, you earn half.
Okay.
And then we'll match it. And because my dad was very upfront, he goes, you play outside, you're on a horse all the time. You're not going to play video games. You're not that kid.
Yeah, right.
You're just not that kid.
Out.
But he goes, if you really want it, you pay for it. I'll match it. So I had to have been like 10 or 11 and working every possible job I could find to earn $200.
Good.
And I'm thankful for that. And I raised my son very similarly. And then in high school, my dad left his job and started a startup company, and it took us down to Orange County kind of, and then I became a beach kid.
Okay.
And went to Laguna Hills High School and was in Laguna Beach for all of high school.
Yeah.
And then I promptly couldn't wait to get out of there.
So literally, thanks, Reed. Literally, your father, did he close up the stable or sell the stable? And
no, at that time he was a casting director, so we weren't running the stables.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we weren't running the stables. My aunt had a stable, and that's where we kept our horses, and that's where we boarded our horses and where I would ride from. Yeah.
What'd your dad start in Orange County?
So he was a part of a company that was way ahead of its time, actually. They were doing desalinated ocean water as a soft drink. But at the time, the environmental movement and green energy and all of those ideas had not yet come into play.
Okay.
And so everybody was like, what am I going to drink this and drink an ocean, a crab claw? Like the idea of like taking ocean water, desalinating it, they were like, oh, it's going to be dirty.
So good idea, the wrong
great
time.
idea ahead of its time.
Okay.
And, so he worked a lot with that. A partner brought him in because of his entertainment background. He was in charge of placing the product in all of TV and film. And he did that. And he was great at it. And unfortunately, it went to the public offering, and it just didn't take off. It just was a confused idea at the time.
Yep.
So my mom at that time started restructuring her career. She had been a commercial actress. She had been like the McDonald's girl and the Toyota girl, and she had been all these, commercial, and made a great living and was a big deal and beautiful and smart and all these things. And she was able to be a stay-at-home mom by being a commercial actress. Okay. So, you could work a 2-day shoot and make a great wage and then still be home. The rest of the week. Yeah. So they both worked in their various talents. And then at that time when my dad's company kind of folded, my mom was working any job she could take because we are those people. And we think it's more embarrassing to not work than it is to work a job you don't like,
Right.
My mom always wanted to ensure that I would have a horse because she thought it kept me out of trouble, which I agree with. You turn 16, and if you drive to the barn after school, you're not driving to other things, So a girl and her horse, it keeps girls out of trouble. And so she just worked like 3 or 4 jobs until she landed a job training for this directorial position, and she had been in front of the camera most of her life, and then she figured out how to be behind the camera.
Okay.
And then she started working on sitcoms. She did like Friends, she did Spin City, she did it's every major show ever. She did them.
Okay.
Will and Grace, she did all of those.
Fascinating.
And so she really took over and became a big deal in our family because she was holding it down while my dad was figuring out the next entrepreneurial step. And then he started another company. And I was just raised with that work ethic and reinvention and creativity and horses.
What an amazing mix of
things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really established a lot of, it fundamentally established who I am today as far as just the way I view the world, the way I view possibilities, the way I view failure. I don't really believe in failure. I believe in choices, and I believe in experiences, and I believe in picking yourself up and going to the next thing if the last thing didn't work out.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, failure.
Yeah.
We could go on a huge tangent about that, but it is so important
we learn
to embrace it.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we get better, improve.
Yeah. And sometimes the way life is, things just don't work out sometimes. You may have the best intentions and you may put all your energy in and it still doesn't work out.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yep.
And so I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for those lessons. And that is very much a part of who I am. And my parents begged and begged and begged me to go be an attorney or a professor.
That's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, they were like, don't be in the arts.
Because they were in it. They kind of knew
and they're like, it's tough, but it's subjective. And you can be the most talented person in the world and no one cares.
Too bad, so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So
they loved you, clearly.
And they knew where my strengths were, and they knew that I was good on debate team, and they knew that I was an organized thinker, and they knew that I was good at critical thinking, and they knew I was good at articulating points.
Yeah.
I'm not a good person to get into an argument with, because I will probably rake you over the coals. Yeah. Not always, but most of the time. Mm-hmm. I'm really good at debate and staying very calm and focused on my points. So that's what they were hoping for, and then I was like, I'm gonna be a singer! And then they went, oh,
the 18-year-old
They went,
girl.
we failed. Yeah.
Not at all.
No. Yeah, and it worked out just fine. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, they did everything in their power. I ended up going to San Francisco State initially as a theater major and voice major. And then I was getting work in LA in my 18, 19, 20. And so I transferred to Cal State Northridge so I could be in the general area. Yep. And as I was getting out of college, I sang backup for Christina Aguilera to start. And, first I went and got a corporate job so I could have benefits and have hours and make money. And I was an executive assistant with my theater degree.
How'd that go?
I beat out business grads because of what I had met, because I was articulate and because I could interview well and because I could spin a point. I believe the question that got me the job is, why should we hire you over the Yale grad business school person in the lobby that we're about to interview?
And your answer?
My answer was, because this is an advertising agency and you need creativity and you need to appeal to people my age. And you're not going to do that with a business grad. You're going to do it with somebody my age who's creative, who knows what weird kids want.
Man, fast forward, because that is what businesses need nowadays.
I think that's all they hire now.
They don't need this piece of paper that you got at college, because most likely what you learn in college isn't that applicable.
Yeah. It's a general education. And
there's nothing wrong with it.
No, it's wonderful. I talk about this a lot with people. I'm so for trade schools and vocational schools. Looking back, if my folks had, and I was of that era where everybody's like, you must go to college or you have no future.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful, and I have no regrets. I had made my best friends. I had a heck of a good time.
Right.
I grew up, it was all wonderful. But looking back and looking forward for my own son, it's like, they could have said, go learn to be a hairdresser, an esthetician, go learn to get your real estate license, go learn a skill, a trade, and then we'll pay for acting classes and singing classes.
Right.
And in the meantime, you're learning how to support yourself in a way that you can count on anywhere.
Yeah.
You can go to any state and get that license.
I wish we could do a podcast just on this. I have a huge passion for it.
Yeah.
Literally just this morning, our house is getting, or our street is getting paved. So there's these big old Caterpillar tractors.
Totally.
And I'm like, why doesn't my son, he's only almost 8, he could literally just learn how to drive a tractor
and have
out
a job
of high
set
school and make an amazing living without any student debt and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying we've got really far from that. Is all I'm getting.
I think the pendulum is swinging back
it
because people like myself and yourself that are having kids and have small kids, and we're looking ahead to the future. And I went. I promise this is coming back around to this point. I went after college, after working at the advertising agency, getting the call to go audition for Christina, which was where my passion was. Yep. I took the open audition. I got the position to sing for her and go on tour and do all this stuff. And so it was great because I was using my skill set to its potential, which was fantastic. Tour ultimately ended. What was next? Blah, blah, blah. Yep. I don't know. I was a horse girl. I was offered a job to coach the USC equestrian team, which was incredible. I took 5 kids, turned it into 40 kids, took them to a national title, and kept a whole movement going in a sport that had not yet been developed at that school. So that was all great. But I watched all of these kids. I had graduated college. I was only 4 or 5 years older than they were, and I'm watching all of these kids in neuroscience and law school and, preliminary political science and looking at surgery. And for those kids that were very clear, I want to be a brain surgeon. College all the way. All the way. Because you know what? I don't want you operating on my brain without all the knowledge.
The training. They need it.
And the knowledge and the science and the study. And then I looked at kids that would be writing and they're like, oh, I'm a communications major. And I was like, well, that's great.
And
what are you doing with that? Well, it opens the door to any business. And I was like,
I know.
Did you need to put your parents and yourself into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt when maybe you could have taken some speech classes at the community college and maybe you could have taken a leadership course, designed by professionals in the industry. And maybe in the meantime, you could have started, I don't know. I try not to judge.
Agree.
Everybody has their own journey.
Of course.
But for me, I did go to college and, I could go back to college and teach, if I wanted to. But to be an entertainer, I didn't really need it.
Right.
And my parents were kind enough to pay for college. I had to pay for pretty much everything else, but they were like, we'll put you through school, which is a massive blessing.
Me too. That's what my folks did for me.
Yeah.
I got to work through college, so I got to pay for a lot of things.
Totally.
And pay for the school. It was great.
Yeah, it was really great. It was a lot of fun. And I laugh now when I hear kids be like, well, I have 12 units. My parents want me to get a job. And I was like, I had 22 units and 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down. You can do it. You can do it. It's all time management. And it just depends on how badly you want something. If you want that new pair of jeans, go get a job.
Yep.
So
yeah, amen.
I need a little more tolerance in that area, I suppose. But again,
so come on back to that corporate job that you were working.
Yeah. So the corporate job I was working, and I got hired, and it was an advertising agency, and I beat out the business people because I had a creative mind. And that's what they needed.
That's what they need.
And then I got the call. Friends of mine were like, there's a word of mouth closed audition for Christina Aguilera. Okay. We think you should show up. Okay. And I was like, I can do that, but I work my job now, so I need to. I lied. I'm not condoning this, but I blatantly lied and said I had a dentist appointment and I'd probably need a root canal, and so I needed a 3 or 4 hour lunch. Yeah. And I believe they initially gave me like a 2-hour lunch, and then I called and I was like, I'm still getting drilled, and they were like, just take the rest of the day, which worked out because the way the audition was set up, we waited in a long line, and we went in groups of 3. Yeah. And then after all the groups went, they'd call all the names, and any name they called had to leave. Okay. And then it was second round. And then it was third round.
So if you
and then
were
it was,
make it,
and
you
I
were there all
kept thinking
day.
When I showed up, and this sounds, it's crazy to even mention this, but it's like I showed up, I was the only white girl there, which I was like, there's not a snowflake's chance that I'm getting this job. Because these women were powerhouse church singers, gospel singers. They were, I'm listening to them warm up going, wow, I want their voice, you know? I want to sound like them. All of these incredible, beautiful, talented singers. Yep. And I have a specific tone to my voice, which was very Amy Winehouse / Adele / whatever, Joss Stone. I had that tone. And Christina at the time was doing a live tour with no pre-recorded tracks and all those things. And so she had a 12-piece band, and she was going to have originally 3 singers. But then she got me in the mix, and she's like, I need to even out the race ratio. So she had to hire a white dude to balance out the white girl and the sounds and everything else. And so, it became 4 singers, a 12-piece band, a couple dancers. It was a live, cabaret show. Okay. And she needed someone who could double her vocals, and I have an incredibly powerful voice. So where I was an attribute to her was not only the tone, and I could match her range, but I had a loud voice. So being that we were going to do a 30-something city tour, your voice gets tired. It's a muscle.
You just need
and so she wanted that backup. She wanted that power backup in that range of tone. So I got the job. And that sent me off, very long-winded way of, sent me off into the world of entertainment on my own.
Wow. How old were you?
22. 20, see, baby,
man,
right out of college.
When you went on tour.
Right out of college.
What was tour like? There's this absolute
Hollywood
great idea about it.
Yeah,
but man, it sounds really challenging.
Well, we had the dark side of the story, which I don't get to tell very often, is we actually didn't get onto the full tour. It got canceled. Oh. So we rehearsed for months, and we got it all prepped, and we the whole thing, and then Christina had a node or a nodule or something went wrong with her voice, and they pulled the plug on it. So I had quit my job that I had just been given a raise offer, by the way. So all you kids listening or people listening, I had started out at, my $25,000 or $30,000 a year salary in LA, which doesn't get you very much in Los Angeles. True. But I was thrilled. I was out of college I'm making the big money, which I'm still thankful for. I felt that way. It's an entry-level position, and I could pay my bills and pay my rent and have time off. And then because of my creative mind, they had offered to put me through graphic design school while working for them, and up my pay to about $85,000 a year as a 22-year-old.
Are you kidding me? Sign me up now.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, I'd never heard such numbers, you know? And I'd just been offered this raise and this opportunity when Christina came calling. So I quit on a day's notice. And my boss was so rad because she was like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We'll get a temp. Go.
It is.
And I went, and then it got canceled, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah. But it opened up the door because I was able to sing some, stuff for her recorded. Okay. I was called in to sing for Destiny's Child. I was then called in to sing for a lot of different artists, and then film and TV started calling. Okay. And I put out my own record, and then I was in a band, and we started touring. And tour life, to get back to your question, is awesome.
Okay.
Tour life is awesome. It's not a reality. It's camp.
Okay. Well
it's
said.
Camp.
Well
it's
said.
Like, I mean,
it's
in the sense
reality.
that you do. There are days when you're like, I don't even know if I have the energy to get on that stage and do what I'm capable of doing. Yeah. And your voice is a muscle, and it gets tired. Yeah. Just like anything else, a major athlete's not going to run their fastest time every day.
Nope.
It's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So, but the environment of it is like going to camp. You're with friends. You're in a creative space. The energy, you're seeing great cities. You're meeting amazing people. Yeah. You're getting to share something that is built inside of you with people that feel something when you provide it. So you get to see the immediate gratification of people feeling good by what you do.
Music is so powerful.
It's healing.
In that sense, yep.
So, it's such a false reality, and it's so wonderful, and I love it, and I can't wait till the world is back to a place where I can do that again. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So it's wonderful, but it is not real life. I mean, you're working. Here's the other side of it. I don't think most people understand how much work it is. Yeah. The same way camp is fun, everybody who makes the camp and puts on the camp is exhausted. Yes. You know what I mean? Yep. Because you're still entertained. You're giving energy all the time. Mm-hmm. In more predictable jobs, I would say. I think maybe that's, or more structured and
absolutely,
and planned kind of livings. I think the wear and tear is different, but I don't think most people understand the amount of, for all the energy someone gives to their job, they're not necessarily having that energy taken from them by thousands of people.
Right.
So it's a different trade-off.
100%.
And when people make fun of celebrities about, they live the big life, they do. But they are working incredibly hard in a specific way that the average person does not.
Yeah.
And you become isolated because you don't have the ability. I never reached the level of any kind of fame where it was like I couldn't walk down the street or anything like that. But you do, once you perform and you've opened for 30,000 people or played for that amount of people, and then you go down, to go sign CDs or whatever. I mean, I can't even tell you, just even on my small scale, the bombardment of you're signing CDs. I've had people ask me to sign their chest. I've had they want a piece of my clothing. They want a piece of you that you can't even necessarily give beyond music, which is exhausting, and I'm not making any excuses for people who are lame with their celebrity. They are.
No.
But there is a downside that you lose yourself and you become isolated because you can't just go out and enjoy the life from a perspective of a person who doesn't do that. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So there's a downside, but it's a lot of fun. The upsides outweigh.
There's a downside to having a 9 to 5.
Totally.
I mean, and downside might not even be the right word. There's pros
wear and tear.
cons.
Pros and cons. Yeah, exactly. And I've had those jobs too, and so I respect that immensely. And in that regard, I'd much rather be tired singing all the time than
there you go.
Yeah,
and you have a choice, and I have a choice.
Exactly.
So there you go. I want to touch on something that I think is really important. When you took the corporate job and you got the call that there was going to be the closed audition and you went and you did it, what came of that
is my whole life.
and I think it's just really, it's so unique in life. And I just want you people to understand that trying new things and doing something that you're just almost not sure about is fine. It's really easy to get stuck in this where you think you have the path. But guess what? We just don't know.
Well, and in my case, I was very lucky because the path called me, in a sense. I had the interest. I did the work. I was prepared. I was always well executed in my vocal ability and training, and I showed up on time, and I did the work diligently. And so I had the corporate job, but when the call came, for me, that was the authentic call. That was the do what you've set out to do call. However, I will say I am a firm believer that the idea of doing one thing for 30 years is gone. And that's back to that college idea is that it's like...
I think for a majority of people, it will be.
Yeah. And I think that idea of, you're going to go to school to learn this thing, which there's a very good chance you won't even do that thing.
Yep, I agree.
That's
will
why
be the minority.
That will
100%.
Be,
Our attorneys, our doctors, people that need certain certifications
surgeons,
and training.
Higher education, things like that. But I think most of us are very versatile and we are not one-dimensional. And the average person doesn't say, I want to do this one thing for the rest of my life. And I think that's also breeding the foreground to people taking up interest in doing like I may have this job, but I'm going to go ahead and start this thing that I love on the side.
If I only told you how many things I'm getting my fingers into right now, it's just... I just have a lot of passions.
And that's what we should be doing. We should be cultivating our capability of doing both and a lot of things. I
agree.
The monetary value of that, I think, comes in tow with developing multiple skills. And I think that's important.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah. I mean, not only for us, but for these kids behind us to just kind of come to that understanding.
Totally.
Just learn.
Yeah.
Learn.
Learn
you
all
don't
the
have
things.
to decide what's this one thing that you want to do till you're 65 years old.
We have evolved into these humans that have the capacity to do so much. Why waste it on just one thing?
Amen.
Yeah, so I'm all for it. I'm like, get the college degree, don't get the college degree.
Yeah.
Learn something through the workforce, grow an idea, and be creative and develop your own idea for the workforce. I mean, I think there's room for all of it.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So you went on tour as your own band. I don't know how old you were when you did that. Just kind of keep walking us through.
Sure. So,
and bring us eventually up to
I just all of my 20s, pretty much. Yeah, all of my 20s I spent in a musical touring environment. And when I was, like anybody else, I was growing a reputation and making more of my money, honestly, in session singing, which was really, I groomed myself to be really accurate in the studio quickly. So I took a skill that I knew I had and fine-tuned it to be able to execute quickly. So a lot of people can sing, which is great, and I encourage that. To be able to sing with technique quickly and efficiently and correctly is something singers all over the world should be working on because it opens up your skill set of trades. So I was able to start getting calls of, can you sing on this movie? Can you sing something like this? Can you get it done in an hour? Yes, I can.
Right.
And flash forward to more recently, and this was such an exciting thing for me. I got a call from a friend that was like, I have a new Ringo Starr song. I need your voice, but I need it in 2 hours. Can you get it done? Okay. And then it's going to get shipped back to wherever Ringo's living right now. Yes, I can.
Yeah.
And I have full confidence in just send me the track, give me a basic outline of what you need, or get very specific, whatever you need, and I will over-deliver quickly. So I've made most of my living actually in a way that most people haven't seen, but they've heard. You know what I mean?
Said.
Yeah.
So it's totally behind the scenes in that sense.
I've sung on national commercials. I have sold you clothes from Chico's that you don't know you bought. You know, I have sold you stuff for Levi's that you don't know you bought. I have sold you, my voice has. So that became a really big niche for me while touring, while doing all those things. But like the arts in many ways, you have ebbs and flows. You have seasons where you're killing it and seasons where you need to go sell burgers at a burger stand. Okay. And you should not have any, the most, I reference this all the time with young artists, is that the most humbling thing is I was working at a burger joint, paying for recording time to get a new album out with my band. And we had been signed and then dropped and then picked up and then all these things. And we were funding our own recordings. And I was working at a burger joint because I had rent to pay and I had studio time to pay for. And I had a savings, but I didn't want to burn through that. And I was in my burger joint and I walk up to the table and I'm like, what can I get you to eat? And they go, you're Candace Devine.
Yeah.
Why are you working here? Like with so much condemnation. Why are you working here? And I was like, well, I'm glad you have more ego than I do, but I still have bills to pay, you know? Yeah. And I recommend that to anybody. There is no amount of pride or, again, I think when you are if you think something's beneath you, you have the wrong moral compass.
Amen. So your parents did a great job.
Good job, Robin, Marnie.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not above hard work. No one's above hard work.
No.
And I have taken jobs like you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
While being opening for 30,000 people. Like, and I don't think people see that or realize that in their day-to-day lives, that no one is above hard work and everyone has the capability to support themselves.
Yes.
If they want to.
Don't forget that, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Take
goodness.
the job at the burger joint, work at the
Make it
McDonald's,
happen.
be the trash collector, do the thing where you volunteer your time and then move into a position. I've taught at beach camp. I have worked at a yogurt shop. I have worked at anything that would be flexible.
Yes.
To do the thing I was intended to do in my mind,
Well, before we started the podcast, I asked where you lived. You said Wildwood.
Yeah.
And I asked if you had a flyer on your door from Pinion Painting, because that's what I'm doing. So I've literally taken a job that's not my first choice.
Right.
But it allows me flexibility to pay the bills so that, guess what?
Totally.
I get to sit here with you.
Yeah.
and I could not be more serious. It's not a glamorous job, but it allows me to do
and
what
it doesn't matter.
I know,
in this day and age, it's like, who are we impressing is my point. Like, who am I? I'm only on this earth to do my life with my family and raise a good human being. Like, that's and I believe that my purpose with singing helps facilitate that in a way that brings me joy and fortunately monetary gain.
Yeah.
But aside from that, if that was not the case, and in my past has been the case, that's not providing the monetary gain, who am I here to impress other than my own well-being of living a life that's quality?
Yeah.
Right? So
Thank
props
you for
to you.
sharing that.
Props to you. And to anybody listening, do what you have to do.
Yep.
If you have the big dream, do what you have to do to execute the big dream.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
It's a means to something else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my rant and soapbox on that. So beyond that, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so after touring, and I had put out a solo record, and I was selling out venues left and right, which I was very proud of. I'm still in my young 20s, and I had been working with different producers. I had been in and out of some bad contracts. Another lesson to be learned: always find a way to pay for an attorney, which is why my parents were like, "You should have been an attorney," because you want to know whatever you're signing. You want to know what deal you're making, And I learned that the hard way the first time around. I've never had that issue since.
That's often
I learned from the one bad go. And I turned down a lot of big contracts a lot of times because of getting smart enough to go, you don't own me.
Right.
And so I put out my own solo record, did very well with it, got placements with it. And what that means is when TV and film pick up your song, they pay you for the right to use it. Once it gets aired on television, you get residuals from that. So it becomes mail money, which is so beautiful.
Oh, I bet.
So beautiful. When you open your mailbox and there's just checks. I wish that for everyone. It's a glorious place to be. And that really started my trajectory of being able to be a session singer and a for-hire singer, as well as an artist. Again, both and. One does not accompany the other necessarily. You can be an artist and do things that make you feel good on a personal level, and then turn around and go to a job for hire and give your skill set to what they need.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And then from there, I was introduced to another songwriter named Dave Yaden, who is a fantastic, incredible songwriter and a genius level piano player. And somebody had introduced us and said, I feel like you two should write songs together. And we wrote a song. I had a song called Leave the Light On that was not finished. And I brought it to him, and we finished it together. And we performed it at a show that we were kind of co-headlining. Like, he played a set and I played a set, but we were double billed. And I sat in on his set and we sang the song, and he sat in on my set and sang the song. Well, I had record labels following me, and they were there that night, and they were like, we're going to sign this as a duo.
Okay.
And there were not any duos at the time, really. Of course there were, but none that were being brought to the forefront that we knew of. And we decided to create a tour to go find out how that would look, like using our songs, combining our songs, writing new songs. And we had a great time, and we went all over from the Midwest to the East Coast. And it was a lot of fun. And we came back, and we were negotiating record deals, and Leave the Light On had gotten picked up by a couple jazz radio stations because it was kind of an adult contemporary Adele-ish kind of song, but with a duo. And we were often taglined as like he was an Elton John and I was an Adele of sorts.
Interesting.
And so we took that combination of traits. We had kind of upbeat, 70s dance, funk, rock, soul music combo. And we were selling out venues all over the West Coast and having long residencies in Los Angeles that were selling out and getting a lot of organic attention.
Awesome.
And then we were offered an opportunity to write with a multi-Grammy nominated artist, and then we wrote on that record and that got Grammy nominated.
Okay.
And we started writing for other artists, writing for television spots and film again, writing for ourselves.
Yeah.
And we just really dove into being focused songwriters and performers.
Okay.
And that was a really incredible time into my late 20s. And then I got married, and then I made a baby, and our paths as a duo didn't really align anymore. And so that it very naturally dissolved. And when I got pregnant and I was brewing a human, which I tell people, I was looking around and seeing Los Angeles as a very different city because it was now a new set of eyes.
Absolutely. A new lens.
It was a new lens, and it wasn't the Los Angeles or the Burbank area because I was still living in Burbank because it was a great area. It's like a great little suburb that's its own little city in Los Angeles, and it just looked very different than when I lived there. A child could no longer hop on a horse and go ride by themselves.
Right.
A kid could not walk home from school without being accompanied by an adult. They were putting laws in place, that kids were losing these general kid-like freedoms because it just wasn't safe. They were putting these rules in place for a reason. And the other big component of that, the expense of living there shot up through the roof. When I was a kid, you could board a horse for $200 a month. By the time I left Los Angeles, it was about $1,200 to $1,300 a month for one horse. And I already owned my own horse, and I was like, how am I going to pay for a kid to own a horse? And not that he'll even like horses, but if he does, I can't even, I'm 5 generations deep of horse people, and I can't offer him that.
Right.
And so my parents had moved to Prescott long before we had. They've been here about almost 12 years.
How did they end up here?
By a fluke. My aunt was looking for a very specific truck to haul her horse trailer, and a used one, but with all this specific criteria, and there were only 2. One was in Prescott, one was in Louisiana.
So she came here.
She said to my mom, I'll buy you a one-way ticket. Let's fly out, thinking it was like this epic journey. It's 6 hours. You could drive there very easily. But she was like, this epic journey, I'll fly out and we'll road trip home, and it'll be this epic fun girls trip journey. And then they realized it was really not that far. And my mom came out and was like, this place is kind of amazing. Yeah. And so she came home and said to my dad and I, and she's like, if I bought us all a plane ticket, it's just a round trip 1 hour flight, like, can we go check it out? Yep. And immediately I thought, we're going to go buy something because this is exciting. My mom never buys plane tickets to places. And she laughs to this day because she goes, I had no intention of buying anything. I just thought we'd look for the future. And they did. They found this beautiful almost 22 acre ranch out in Chino Valley, and we had no like concept of, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
We were laughing because if we had any concept, we would have looked at all different things. We would have looked in Williamson Valley. We would have looked in Chino. We would have looked in Skull Valley. We would have looked in all the places for horses. And we just found this one ranch that was stunning and that we loved, and it had been sitting vacant. Okay. And the bank had owned it for years. Yeah. And no one bought it, and we were shocked. And it had an incredible well and an 18-stall barn, and we were 2 arenas, and we were like, we'll take it. Yeah. And that was all fine and dandy until my dad's cousin was like, I've always loved your house. I want to buy it. And my dad, that was going to be their retirement plan to move out here. And my dad was like, well, I don't know if we want to sell our house. He goes, name your price.
Okay.
And he was like, really? He's like, who else is going to say name your price? Yeah. And so my dad looked at my mom and he's like, should we name our price? And she was like, well, we bought a ranch, I guess. So literally they bought the ranch one day on Friday or whatever. And then a week later they sold their house. And then and he said the only caveat is you have to be out in 30 days. Okay. Because I have someone renting my house and I'm going to move in.
It's go time.
And so then my parents went from this like retirement plan to we live in Arizona now.
Yeah, on a ranch.
But my mom was still working in LA as a associate
doing
director.
Her things.
And my dad had started his own business, which he could do from anywhere. So they moved in 30 days, and then it was like we don't live in California
Talk about
anymore.
a culture shock.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and they were out in like middle of nowhere, Chino. I mean, they're way out there, and it's stunning and beautiful.
Of course. But it's not.
But then my mom had to
LA.
commute every week.
Okay. That's
So she was now either flying or driving every week. And it was an hour flight, so it wasn't that bad. But she was in LA 4 days, home 3 days, and for like 9 years.
Oh. She must have loved Chino.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was hard. I mean, it wasn't hard, but it was just interesting because it was the dream. They'd always wanted to own their own, like, ranch.
Yeah,
and
makes
initially, my great-grandparents had in LA, but they sold it by the time I was born. So the goal was always to kind of get that back.
Yep.
But then what was originally a really affordable piece of land became multi-millions of dollars. Yep. And my parents were like,
Yep.
I don't know about all that. So this was affordable to have horses, and it had a well, and LA started taxing water. And the policies and the direction of the way things were happening were changing to not be advantageous for horses.
Okay.
So this became very logical. And then I started coming out on holidays, and then my horse moved out here. And so then my parents were dangling that as it. So I was out here every month to be with my horse, sometimes every 2 weeks, going back and forth. And because you can't take a girl away from her horse for very long.
Man.
Yeah, and so that's how we kind of got out here. And when my husband and I got married on the ranch. And
awesome.
We brought
great
it was so,
memory.
Yeah. It was really just, it fed all the things. And then when I got pregnant, we'll bring it back around. I was like, this is what LA used to be to me. And now it's being offered there. And we really adapted very quickly and very easily to the nature and the culture of being here. And the lifestyle, the more rural lifestyle, because it's what it seems weird to say, but it's what we actually had.
Yes.
So it felt very normal.
Right.
It wasn't a culture shock. It was just a better version of, what we had.
Yep. Yeah. That's so fascinating.
And that's how we got here.
Okay.
And my husband actually came a year and a half before me because I was touring and traveling and singing, and I wasn't
didn't
pregnant.
Even have a home practically.
Yeah, and he had been doing real estate there.
Okay.
And in visiting my parents, he was just like, I just have a feeling this place is going to boom because it's gorgeous and it's affordable and it's friendly and it's clean. And it's, as much as people are like, close the door on the Californians, which I totally respect and get.
Of course.
But, we've been here 7 years, a while.
Yeah.
But even then, like we would joke, you only saw 4 cars on the road, and we were used to driving 2 hours in traffic for 3 miles. Yep. And we loved that. We loved the space. We loved the cleanliness. We loved the friendliness. Yeah. We loved, and he's like, it's not going to be long before people catch on. The same way they did in Oregon, the same way they did in Utah, the same way they have in Nevada. Yep. It's like, it's just not going to be long. So he brought his real estate skill set here, and he stayed here for a year and a half before me, setting up shop and getting his business going. And shout out to Sheridan Property Group. And that's really, by the time when I did get pregnant, we had done long distance, and then it was just logical. And it's really funny. I missed singing with Stevie Wonder to come out here and tell him I was pregnant, and because I had been doing this residency where I was singing with greats all the time and inviting them to showcase into the showcase and singing with them. And Stevie Wonder's one of my idols upon idols. And I had played a show, and I was pregnant, and I got off stage at midnight, and I was your adrenaline's pumping, and you're driving, and I'm like, screw it, I'm going to drive to Arizona right now.
Oh yeah.
And it's the middle of the night, there'll be no traffic, and I know that my energy will take me at least to 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I can just push through. And if I have to pull over and sleep, I will. And that was my mindset. And so I did, and I came out, and I showed up at the house at 6 in the morning, and DJ was like, why are you here? And I handed him a card that basically said, we're pregnant, this is so exciting. And then I got immediately that afternoon, or that next night, my phone was blowing up. They're like, where are you? Where are you? Yeah. Stevie Wonder's here. Where are you? Everybody's asking for you. Like, what are you doing? Where are you? And I'm like, I'm telling people I have a baby. But that was the launch to moving here, was missing singing with Stevie Wonder, announcing I was pregnant.
Sorry,
and
Stevie.
Then, it's okay. Yeah, he missed out. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't miss out. He missed out. No, I'm just kidding. And that was kind of the natural transition period, what brought me here.
Okay.
And then I had a kiddo, and then I kept singing sessions, and I needed to find a studio.
Okay.
And I, in LA, there's a studio on every block, in every house, in every backyard, in every guest house. And here I Googled music studio, and there was one. And it was called Raven Sound Studio. Okay. And so I emailed them and I said, listen, I'm a session singer and I've got commercials I have to sing. I have things I have to do. Can I rent studio space?
Yeah.
And that's when I met Dylan Ludwig, who runs that studio. And we became great friends, and he started to kind of see, like, he's like, wow, all your projects are so urgent. And I'm like, yes, they are. And we built a really brilliant working relationship. And then I had been singing. I wrote a song and sang with a guy named Slim Gamble, who's the lead guitarist of what is now Lady A, previously Lady Antebellum.
Okay.
And the single we wrote had been picked up by Rolling Stone and Variety and a bunch of different magazines.
Gotcha.
And his management was like, we need a music video. Oh. And I lived in Arizona. He lived in Nashville, and he needed it in a day.
Okay.
And because that's how things work. Dylan was like, my buddy Steve Hollingsworth has a video company. So that's how I met Steve. And Steve did the music video for a song called Over Getting Over You that we actually shot at the Birdcage on Whiskey Row. And that's how we met. And then flash forward to the three of us became an entity and started Raven Productions.
Okay.
Because
who's the three?
It's myself, Dylan Ludwig of Raven Sound Studio, and Steve Hollingsworth of Enlightening Media, who is a cameraman and has a film company.
Does he go by Stevie?
Stevie Thunder.
Stevie. Okay,
Yeah.
I've worked a little with Stevie.
Yeah, Stevie's great.
Stevie, you're awesome.
He is great.
Oh my God.
He's awesome.
Okay.
They're both awesome.
Yeah.
And my life is far more enriched being with the two of them. So, and we share a lot of humor. So the three of us launched Raven Productions, which what I saw here was we live in a city, in my opinion, I've been all over this country and world singing, and we have a fundamentally rooted music city here, but nobody knows it as that.
Yeah.
I mean, people hear from other places, they hear Prescott. We obviously know it's Prescott, and it's a great place to retire. It's a great place to have outdoorsy activities. It's a great place for rehabilitation. Yep. And I was like, why is nobody saying this is a music city? Because it is a music city. I had never performed here.
Right.
And I was like, I've performed all over the country.
Yeah.
And no one ever told me about Prescott. And so that kind of became my mission in the time of having an infant. Because I wasn't performing and I wasn't touring. And my brain and my wheels were turning. And I'm like, okay, very selfishly, I want to perform here. Yeah. I want to see people perform here, and then I don't have to leave. I don't have to leave my baby. I don't have to leave my family.
Yep.
And so I started to just open my big mouth and talk to people left and right, like, why aren't we bringing in bigger...
What's the story?
Yeah, why aren't we bringing... I know the college brings in a big act every now and then that I was aware of.
I think it's probably different than even some of the stuff you'd like to bring in or you think should be brought through here.
Yes. I'm like, we sit
they
perfectly...
bring in more show type
which is also amazing.
Which is
but
great.
There's a whole scale in between A-list and local.
Exactly.
There's this whole, spectrum.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, we sit in between the 40, which I've traveled on. We sit in between the 10 of the two. Yeah. And I'm like, and both are only an hour to 2 hours away, which is insane to me.
That's an interesting point.
Because
talk about the people traveling or the artists traveling
sit between
on
two
that.
massive highways that take artists cross-country touring. And if you're going to play Phoenix on a Friday, there's no reason you can't play Prescott on either a Thursday, Saturday, or Sunday. Like, it's such a short distance.
So logical, right? To fill a gap. I mean, just a natural...
Yeah, and it goes both ways. So you can be coming up the 10, play Phoenix, play Prescott, head up to the 40, play Flagstaff, Sedona, and continue on Route 66 on the way to everywhere east. Or vice versa. You can be coming from the east and play Sedona, Flagstaff, whatever, come through Prescott, and then head down to Phoenix.
First, I would have said geographically we were in a poor position, but as you say that, I go, oh,
we are
wait a
in
minute.
the most impeccable,
Yeah.
because every artist wants what's called a one-off. A one-off is going to be where you're playing your major cities to massive crowds.
Yep.
Great. But there's an opportunity to play a one-off city where you can play an acoustic show and the band can travel on before you and all your engineers and crew can travel before you because they most often need 2 days to set up massive shows.
Yes, makes sense.
Where you can stop into a Prescott and play an acoustic show with your guitar, make a killing, because if it's, even $50 a ticket and you are playing a 1,200 or 4,000 or 900 or even a 500 seat theater, it's just bonus money on your merch and it's building an audience in an additional place. And it allows for versatility in the tour schedule.
Totally.
So we are, based on my knowledge and touring experience, like we are primed to be a small Austin. We are primed to be a small, anywhere, Seattle, LA, San Francisco, New York, Philadelphia, Atlanta. And I was looking at the greater Southwest, and I'm like, Vegas has Las Vegas. Or Nevada has Las Vegas, and they have their big shows.
Yep.
Albuquerque and New Mexico have their hot air balloon festival and I'm talking about things that off the top of your head you can go, this is what's out there, right? Utah has incredible outdoorsy attractions. And Arizona has the Grand Canyon, and very rightfully so, Phoenix is the 5th largest city in the country, and it has its own thing, but there's no scene, quote unquote. And I'm like, why does the Southwest not have an entertainment music hub?
Yeah, interesting.
Because Vegas has it, but it's Vegas.
Right.
Does that make sense? It's not known for it has the shows, it has gambling, it has the whole
that's different
thing, and it's expensive.
Yep.
But we don't have what Austin kind of offers is this kind of intimate, and that's the charm of Prescott. I love that it is everybody's hometown.
It is.
We're the Christmas city.
Yep.
We have these attractions that people love to come to Prescott and visit, but it's not known for all the incredible artistry here.
Right.
So I'm out to change that.
Okay.
And that's my soapbox. So with Raven Productions, that's what we're trying to do is increase. And it's funny because I get pushback on people going, we don't want more people moving here. And I'm like, I understand that. So let's make it a tourism spot. Let people come for a weekend, fund our town, enjoy it, and go home. Let's give them reasons to come up and see a show and go back to Phoenix or go back to Scottsdale or wherever. Yeah. So that's kind of my drive. In doing that as well, we've set up a format for our business to fund, to additionally and create a subsidy fund to the Prescott Unified School District. So a large, as we're creating memberships to Raven Productions so that people can be first to know about shows and first to see online content and all of those things, for as little as $5 a month, you can get all of that information and get all of that content and be the first to know about artists coming here and tickets. And then a portion of those proceeds will not only go back into creating more content and more concerts and more capabilities, but a large portion goes into the school district to fund our arts programs. Our kids here learn, fine art and choir and things from kindergarten on, but we need more funding to develop those programs, to allow those kids to go to choir competitions, to allow our marching band to get new uniforms, to allow our, dance and film and audio and all of these things. And I really want to encourage kids to realize that there are avenues in the arts to make a living in.
Absolutely.
And ways to be creative for your own personal growth and outlet and mental health. It's really great that you pass tests for science and math, and that's hugely important, and coding and computer science. Yep. But we need things to write about. We need things to be inspired by. Yep. We need outlets for kids to be busy in. And what better way to stimulate their brain and critical thinking than to fund outlets that allow them to diversify themselves? Which is a tool to what we started with talking about. Yes. Be multidimensional.
So, bringing it back.
Yeah, so that's Raven Productions. That's become my primary focus, especially through COVID, because I can't perform and I can't tour.
Right.
And taking all of my experiences through my short life and moving them into a, funneled thing. And because I'm passionate about youth and the arts and those things, which will lead me to the Launchpad Teen Center, we are very aligned. The Launchpad Teen Center is run by Courtney Osterfeld here, and basically it's giving teens a place. We talk often about where do kids go after school, little kids, but we don't talk about our teens as much. And this place cultivates a safe haven, a creative art space, an outdoor space. They take these kids hiking and camping and give them a place to start bands and work on their creative arts with film and audio and podcasting and all of these things that I believe in so deeply.
Yes.
And sometimes when our public systems aren't either funded or in place to offer all of those programs. We leave it to the private sector.
Absolutely.
But in that sense, we have to help support the private sector. Yes. So I'm a passionate follower and contributor and voice for the Launchpad, as well as my husband and many people in this town. And that's why we're doing this interview here today.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
And this particular place and organization lines up with everything I believe in.
That's so exciting.
So Raven Productions is a supporter of the Launchpad, and we want to see it be funded and grown, and things that we do with Raven Productions will directly go into the Prescott Unified School District so that we can create those things there. Yeah. So that's me in a nutshell. So long-winded.
That's a great nutshell. Well, and the one reason I love this format and why I always say, hey, start from the very beginning.
Right.
Where were you born and raised? If you guys notice, there's always nuggets along the way.
Totally.
There's reasons that Candace does now what she does, why she has a passion for this. And if I were to be sitting where you're sitting, you would then learn that about me too.
Absolutely.
You know why I'm here doing a podcast, trying to bring exposure to people like you, to organizations like this. It's fascinating.
Everybody has a story, right?
We all have a story.
Right.
And so I'm obsessed with people's stories.
I'm right
legitimately
there with you. My podcast very similarly is about the journey.
Yeah, which you haven't shared yet. So tell people about the podcast that you are starting.
Yeah, Raven Productions has started with 2 entities. We have the Creative Convergence. Much like yours, we are on the journey and the story. However, we do focus it primarily in the arts.
Okay.
So I have brought in guests of every kind of shape and interest that have generated their livings in the arts, mainly for what I said before, to invoke that idea into our youth and to other people, much like yourself. You can be doing this job, but that doesn't mean you don't have this creative interest to go do all these other things.
Absolutely.
And that's an important outlet. And I think that one thing that has become so apparent in our modern culture is this idea of mental health. And I think it's important for people to know that there are always additional avenues for creativity and that they can be monetarily beneficial.
They can.
And so my podcast focuses on the journey of people who have made a living in the arts.
Okay.
And it's called The Creative Convergence. We are now on Spotify. Yay! We should be on Apple any day. Yay!
Whenever Apple decides that.
Oh my God! Yeah, it's at their will.
They are the longest.
They're like,
it's hilarious.
We'll get that up, and then they're like 3 weeks later, any day now. You're like, what? So that's frustrating, but very much the same thing is that the journey tells you about the shifts and pivots, and it tells you that no cloth is cut the same.
Nope.
And everybody comes from a background. And it's exciting.
It is exciting.
And then we are also launching in this next month a music docuseries where we will be inviting bands in a very safe and socially distanced way that's private to come record a 30-minute live set and then a full interview process on the back that we will edit together as a get to know this band and their music documentary.
Totally.
And we plan on featuring a lot of the local musicians here because they need to be seen and heard.
It's a great place to start.
Brilliant. And intertwining that with other local musicians of other places, but also big names. I have quite a few people on the roster for the future that can, when they can travel here a little more feasibly.
Yay.
We will be bringing some fancy folks.
Yay.
To highlight their stories and how they got to be who they are and where they are.
Yep.
So that's what we're doing.
One of my favorite things about podcasts in general.
Right.
It's just
Get to
the
the
long
bottom.
format. Like, let's really flesh things out.
Yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
So thank you for allowing me to talk about that. But yeah, it's very exciting, and the more of this stuff that's popping up in our town, the more excited I get. I look at it from the perspective, and I hope everybody looks at life this way. There is plenty of pie to go around always.
The opportunity is massive.
And as artists, we should all embrace each other because it's all driving knowledge and ideas to a bigger, better idea and a bigger, better version of ourselves. You know,
I could not agree more. I am all for competition, but at the same time, I want to also be your friend. I really do. Yeah. Because in the big scheme of things, that's actually more important to me, is to be friends with you rather than just to beat you.
Well, and also, let's all get back to a place where success is a good thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's been downplayed for so long. It's like people who are successful don't understand. That's not so true.
Not quite.
People who are successful have done a lot of things, taken a lot of risks, lost a lot of things, failed many times, as we were talking about.
Yep.
And that human spirit and will to pick yourself up and try again and give it another go and reinvent yourself and think outside the box is something
There's no box, by the way.
Yeah. It's something we need to appreciate and applaud. I applaud people's success. I want people to be successful. In that regard, I want my podcast to be successful. I want yours to be just as, if not more. Yeah. And that's good with me. And I think if we all championed that and that kind of, ingenuity and that kind of like foresight and work ethic and push for bigger vision to learn new things, I think we'd all be better.
I agree.
That's my assessment.
I agree. I think our relationships would be better. We just, success would not necessarily be so much aligned with the money. But with just the relation. There's nothing wrong with money.
Right. Yeah.
But relationships are just huge. They can easily go by the wayside when money becomes that number one thing. And,
and I think if we're cultivating this idea of being successful as a good thing, I think we will also be cultivating this idea that once you've created or established whatever monetary success that is, giving back is also important.
Oh, it's huge.
You know what I mean? Versus the greedy nature of, well, I worked really hard and people may hate me, but it's mine now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've set the precedence for Raven Productions that some of the finances are going to go back into
and hopefully
keeping that
as we grow on a monetary basis, a large percentage of that. Yeah. So that, but I think it generates a much better way of life for everybody. And again, back to that mental health idea, it's like if you're giving back. I want everybody to make enough money to have the life they dream of. But if we're also creating that idea with the concept that success includes, my idea of success is that I can do that.
Exactly.
Versus, I've achieved it, it's mine. Yeah. It just doesn't get you as far.
It's not for me. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah, it just doesn't get you as far in your life, I don't think.
Yeah. Man, you've shared
so much
awesome thing. No, that's the important part.
No one's ever called me short-winded or short,
That's good.
Brevity.
I've got 2 more things to wrap up.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you some rapid-fire questions.
Let's do it.
And then I'm going to give you the opportunity you can share about Launchpad and also where people can find you and the creative convergence and all that.
Thank you.
So, here are the questions, and you got to answer them fast because it's rapid fire.
Okay, speedy.
All right. What's your favorite thing about Greater Prescott?
The people, honestly. I just, for 2 seconds, when I moved here, the fact that people waved in their cars when they didn't know you and they smile passing you on the street or just like you do the 2-finger like, oh, hey. I was like, this is amazing. This is humanity at its best.
Agreed.
Yeah.
What's your favorite restaurant in Greater Prescott?
I have so many.
Start naming them.
Okay. Farm Provisions, Taj Mahal, Papa's Italian Eatery, but also Rosa's, and the Terra Thai, as well as the Thai Cafe, as well as Thai House, also the Park Plaza. I eat out a lot, you guys. Also Ginza Sushi, as well as Fujiyama, also the Palace, also they go on. I love them all. I support them all. I try to patron them all as much as I can.
Most people are like, wait, I only get one restaurant?
We have so many great ones. Limoncello. I mean, they just go on and on. I appreciate when people start ma and pop, Barley Hound, when people start ma and pop restaurants and bring their skills to the table and they allow me to fill my belly. I'm good. We're good.
We have an amazing restaurant scene.
We do.
I actually moved up. Well, I moved up from South Scottsdale. So Old Town Scottsdale's got just tons of restaurants.
Right.
And I thought, oh man, I'm going to miss all this food. We have really good restaurants.
We have great restaurants. And more coming. I know we have a dim sum place coming. I think we have another like organic. Oh, the Raven Cafe. Oh my gosh. The Raven Cafe. Organic food, organic coffee, and a beautiful patio. I mean, they just go on and on.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
I can't pick one.
What's the number one thing on your Greater Prescott bucket list?
In Prescott, I want to do more camping here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite all-time artist?
I can't pick one of those.
Give us a few.
I can name many. Drew Hall, The Cheektones, Kaylina Martin, Rachel Beck, Dylan Ludwig as an artist, also as a producer. I would say King Copper, Steffi Lee Griffin. I would say the Cross-Eyed Possum. I would say Sugar and the Mint. I would say Johan Glidden and Gloria Arellano as individual artists. I would say me because I'm great. I would say, I would say that we have a ton. I mean, this is a music city. This list is as unlimited as the restaurants, if not even more so.
It's awesome.
I've left out way too many people. The Orgonauts, Sean and Nikolai. I can't even tell you. I have been so blessed to get to know the musicians of this town, and I am excited to meet even more. Every single one of them brings their authenticity, their talent, beautiful songs, great sounds. They're all diverse. We have something of everything here. We do have cover bands. We have original artists. We have singer-songwriter. We have rock bands. We have a little bit of like hip hop influenced. I mean, it just goes on and on. This is why people need to know this is a music city.
And I was just going to say, I'm super excited that you are dedicated to bringing light
to be
all
seen.
Of these things.
Yeah, we're just going to put on a massive flashlight and just go take a look around. Yeah.
I love it.
All day long.
I love it. What are 3 words to describe living in Greater Prescott?
Awesome. I want to actually be thoughtful about this because I could have said awesome, awesome, awesome. The best 3 words I would say, I see Prescott as a very warm, inclusive, and ever-growingly diverse, kind city. Yeah, it's shifting. When I moved here, it was not as diverse. I see that changing. I see people making this their hometown and loving it like their hometown. Yep. I know that there's pushback with people that are like, it's getting too big. I respect that. I understand that. But I do feel that the nature of this town, the heart is still there. Yep. And I think it's infiltrating to the people who are moving here too. It's contagious.
I agree.
Contagious. If you let it be, it's contagious.
Yep. I completely understand people wanting fewer people to move here.
Right. I get it.
Understand it. However, that's why actually most of us moved here. So we just got to keep in mind it's an amazing place.
Let's let the value of here be contagious.
Yeah, and I think, I feel like our city's going to do, or just this area is going to do a really good job at keeping it the way it is.
Yeah, I feel like they're doing a really good job. I know that, and again, I respect the pushback of people who've been here long before I have.
Yes.
And yes, it has grown and changed immensely. Yeah. Unfortunately, the nature of the world is that everything grows and changes. So I give Prescott a lot of kudos for trying to embrace the growth and change in a very positive and authentic way to what it's been.
Yeah. Well said. If you weren't a singer-songwriter, vocal artist, or doing the Raven production stuff, what would you be doing?
I don't know. I would imagine. Sorry, I've just totally stuttered and tripped all over myself on that one. I would imagine I'd be working with horses. I typically like animals more than people.
That might be the highlight quote for this entire podcast.
I just typically think animals have a better radar on life. I'd probably be working with horses and kids or teaching in some capacity. Okay. Yeah.
Last question. What's your favorite summer activity in Greater Prescott?
Oh, I love the summers here. I love the outdoor concerts in the park, being on the stage and listening. Yes. I love that my favorite activities here are usually the big gatherings that everybody loves. Like I said earlier, I would really love to explore more. My husband and I are very outdoorsy. With my son now being 5, I really want to explore more of the camping. Yep. I want to indoctrinate my son with that outdoorsy lifestyle that Prescott offers. Yep. So I want to take more advantage of that.
That's why we moved here too.
Yeah, I want to take more advantage of that. But I do love that we put on jazz nights in the square and music in the square. I love that there's farmers markets and arts and crafts things, all the things that everybody else loves. I'm always there. Whether people know I'm there or not, I'm always there. Shopping and trying to contribute and put money in the pockets of people who are making their living through art and all those kinds of things.
Yes. Yeah. Well said.
And we embrace that here. Our city really backs that. I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that our city embraces that. I love that they're trying to grow these artistic endeavors and support our artists and give people that live here fun things to do outside with their families that are safe.
Right?
I mean, there are not. I know people take that for granted, and I probably should shut my mouth because that's why everybody and their brother's moving here.
No,
but I love that our city puts together these things for people to have community.
Yep.
Our Akronite is amazing. Oh. Our Christmas time is amazing. Our summertime is amazing. Our fall time is amazing. Winter, is a little winter, but people are still outside.
It's short,
and it's
frankly.
Short. I mean, what do we get? Maybe a legit week of snow.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, I can't complain about that.
Exactly.
More often than not, it's the middle of January or December, and I'm on a horse riding in sunshine. So it's wonderful, and it's cool outside.
Yes,
it's wonderful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I love it here. I have nothing negative to say about this place. I embrace it. I love it. It is my home. I've never looked back since moving here. I have no intention of looking back. My husband and I often just joke about that. Like, if we didn't move here, like, where would we be? What would we be? Where would we be going? And I'm so happy to be here that I can't visualize anything else.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How can people get in touch with you, Raven, and then talk about Launchpad and how they can learn more about?
Thank you. Yes, I am everything Candace Devine, and as long as you spell it correctly, it's Candace, so 2 A's, and Devine is D-E, like elephant, D-E-V-I-N-E, not divine like the big guy upstairs. And please don't call me Candy Devine, because that is just a whole different profession. That is not, my voice is too deep, I don't answer to that. So yeah, if you Google Candace Devine, every social I have is Facebook Candace Devine, Instagram Candace Devine, Twitter Candace Devine. Facebook actually I think is Candace Devine Music because I have 2 pages, personal and music. Okay. As far as Raven Productions, we have Raven Pro Media on all our socials. So if Facebook, you can just look up Raven Productions, you'll find us, or do Raven Pro Media. You can email us at contact@ravenpromedia.com. Okay. If you or anyone you know is an artist or a singer or a performer, please contact us. We want to know every musician in this
you guys
town.
want to build those relationships. Yeah. Absolutely.
I want people emailing me going, where's the next show? How can I participate? How can I be involved? So those email chains are open and always read.
Awesome.
You will always get a response from me. It may not be 5 minutes after you sent it, but you will get a response from me always. And our Instagram, all those things. The podcast is called The Creative Convergence. It has its own social medias. It has Facebook and Instagram, and it's all Creative Convergence Podcast, so find us there.
Great.
The Launchpad is Facebook at Launchpad Teens, Instagram Launchpad Teens, Twitter Launchpad Teens, and that's an entity you should definitely check out if you believe as much as I do that teens and kids in general should have after-school activities and be encouraged to get outside and encouraged to do the arts and encouraged to have some tutoring and studying and community and lift each other up. And while their parents are working, and instead of just being home and on their phone, engage with other people.
Yeah, that they're in a positive,
safe environment. I think these programs are just unreal. So that's where you can find all of our things.
Well said. You guys, I hope that you...
I keep forgetting there's a camera.
I know, right?
So everybody's seeing my right side profile. I don't know.
Most people just kind of get into the conversation and kind of forget it, and that's the idea actually.
Totally.
That you just let it flow. So I hope you guys learned some. Well, you
learned probably way more than you ever wanted to know.
But that's the point. No, that's the point. That's what I want people to connect with. I want them to go, "Hey, I love horses," or whatever. And I just loved that story about how her mom was an associate productions lady. It's awesome.
Thank you.
I love it.
It's been a fun journey.
Yeah. And I hope in the future I'll be able to have Courtney on where she can really dive into Launchpad.
She would love to.
Exactly. So if you guys
she's the best.
Need any of that information, I'll put up all their information.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your time.
I'm so glad to do this. Thanks for inviting me in.
Fun doing this.
We'll have to do the swap next time. I'll interview you for your own,
I don't know how creative. Oh yeah, that's
people should know you.
They do.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about how to do that.
I'm happy to like flip the script on you.
I will probably take you up on that offer because I've been kind of wanting to.
Yeah, I mean, I think people want to know who their host is from the beginning as well.
Right?
Totally.
No, I agree.
Totally. So we'll plan that.
Okay. You guys, again, thank you for watching. I'll put all this information below, and if you need anything that we talked about, you'll have all the information.
Awesome.
So you guys,
it's been such a pleasure, Matt. I've enjoyed every second.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.